The water rushed through the cracked dam gate with a thunderous roar that echoed across the valley from my position at the control panel. I watched as luxury resort guests scrambled from their waterfront cabanas, their expensive cocktails forgotten as they stared at the rapidly dropping water levels, the pristine lake that had been the centerpiece of the Lakeshore HOA's for $1 million resort was draining away, and I wasn't panicked. I was calm, deliberate, and completely within my legal rights after what they'd done to my grandfather's bridge. They had this coming. My name is Marcus Chen, and I inherited 40 acres of rural property for my grandfather 15 years ago. The crown jewel of the land was a private lake, complete with an old wooden bridge that Grandpa had built with his own hands. Back in 1952, it wasn't fancy, but it was solid, beautiful in its simplicity, and it connected the two halves of my property. Across a narrow inlet every morning I'd walk across that bridge with my coffee, watching the sunrise paint the water gold. It was more than just planks and posts to me. It was a piece of family history. The trouble started when the Lakeshore Homeowners Association built their upscale resort on the opposite shore 5 years ago. They transformed what used to be quiet farmland into a playground for the wealthy, complete with a spa, tennis courts, and waterfront villas that started at $800,000. The HOA president, a woman named Karen Whitfield, made it clear from day one that she considered my rustic property an eyesore that diminished their resort's ambience. She approached me multiple times about selling, each offer more aggressive than the last. When I politely declined, she switched tactics, complaining about everything from my dock to the occasional family barbecue. But I held firm. This was my grandfather's land, and no amount of money or pressure would make me abandon it. Then came that Tuesday morning in April. I walked out with my coffee as usual, heading for the bridge, only to find a pile of splintered wood where it had stood for over 70 years. Bulldozer tracks led away from the destruction, and a small sign had been posted: unsafe structure removed by order of Lakeshore HOA Beautification Committee. My hands shook as I called the sheriff's department. Deputy Rodriguez arrived within an hour, but after examining the scene and making some calls, he delivered the bad news with a sympathetic shrug. It's a civil matter, Mr. Chen. The HOA is claiming the bridge was encroaching on shared waterway space and posed a safety hazard. You'll need to take it up with them directly or get a lawyer. The HOA office was located in a converted mansion at the resort's entrance. I stormed in, still covered in sawdust from examining the wreckage. Karen Whitfield sat behind an enormous mahogany desk, her perfectly manicured nails clicking on her laptop keyboard. She looked up with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Chen, what a surprise, she said, in a tone suggesting it was anything but. I trust you received our notice about the unsafe structure removal. That was a notice after the fact, I said, struggling to keep my voice level. You destroyed my private property without permission or warning. She tilted her head with mock concern. Oh dear, there must be some confusion. Our surveyor clearly showed that bridge extending into community waterway space. We simply can't have unauthorized structures creating liability issues for our residents and guests. That bridge has been there since 1952. I said, long before your resort existed, and it's entirely on my property. I have the surveys to prove it. Karen's smile turned sharp. Well, old surveys can be so unreliable, can't they? Our legal team has already reviewed the matter thoroughly. If you have concerns, I suggest you have your attorney contact ours, Thompson Briggs and Associates. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're the best property law firm in the state. She slid a business card across the desk with deliberate slowness, clearly enjoying the power play. Some dating back to the 1800s when the land was first homesteaded. My grandfather had been thorough, keeping copies of every transaction, every easement every water rights agreement as I cross-referenced old surveys with newer ones. Something interesting emerged. The concrete dam at the north end of the lake that controlled the water levels according to a 1948 agreement. It was built by a consortium of local farmers, including my grandfather, but here was the kicker: when the other farmers sold their land over the decades, their shares of the dam were supposed to transfer to the remaining owners by 2010 through a series of transfers that everyone seemed to have forgotten about. My family had acquired full ownership of the dam and, more importantly, complete control over the water rights. I spent the next week with my lawyer Sandra Kellogg verifying every document. She was a sharp woman in her 60s who'd handled my grandfather's estate, and she shared my outrage over the bridge. "This is airtight, Marcus," she said, adjusting her reading glasses as she reviewed the papers. "You own that dam outright. The water rights are yours. The HOA owns the land around their side of the lake, but without your water. They've got an expensive mud pit." Armed with this knowledge, I made one more attempt at civilized resolution. I sent a certified letter to the HOA demanding either full restoration of my bridge or payment of $75,000 to cover the replacement cost plus damages. I gave them 30 days to respond. Their response came in just 5 days on law firm letterhead so thick you could build a house with it. Thompson Briggs and Associates informed me that my claims were without merit and that any further harassment of the HOA would result in legal action. They even had the audacity to threaten me with a lawsuit for trespassing if I attempted to rebuild the bridge, claiming again that it encroached on community space. I sat at my kitchen table reading their dismissive response for the 10th time. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't care. They wanted to play hardball. Fine. I picked up my phone and called Sandra. "Send them the final notice," I said. "They have 7 days to agree to our terms or I exercise my rights as dam owner." "You're sure about this?" Sandra asked. "Once you start, there's no going back." Without looking weak, they destroyed a piece of my family's history and laughed in my face about it. I said, "I'm sure." The notice went out that afternoon. It was simple and direct: agree to restoration or payment within 7 days or I would begin a controlled drainage of the lake for necessary dam maintenance and inspection. All perfectly legal, all within my rights as the dam owner. Karen Whitfield called me personally the next day. "Mr. Chen, this joke has gone far enough," she said, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "You can't seriously threaten to drain our lake over some old footbridge. It's not a threat, Miss Whitfield, and it's not your lake. Check the water rights. You're being ridiculous," she snapped. "No judge in the state would let you destroy a $4 million resort over your petty grievance." "Then I guess you have nothing to worry about," I said pleasantly. "You've got 6 days left to reconsider my very reasonable offer." She hung up on me. Over the next few days, I received calls from HOA board members, their lawyer, even the mayor, who was concerned about the potential impact on tourism. I referred them all to Sandra and continued my preparations. On day 6, a process server showed up at my door with an emergency injunction request. The HOA was trying to stop me from touching the dam. Sandra had anticipated this. She met them in court that afternoon with our stack of documentation. The judge, after reviewing the clear ownership papers and water rights agreements, denied the injunction. The plaintiff has failed to demonstrate any legal basis to prevent Mr. Chan from performing maintenance on his own property. Judge Harrison ruled the court finds no evidence of bad faith or illegal intent in his proposed actions. Day 7 arrived with no word from the HOA. I drove to the dam at sunrise, my truck loaded with tools and safety equipment. The structure was old but solid, built to last by people who knew what they were doing. The control mechanism was a massive wheel that operated the Emergency spillway gate installed for flood control but perfectly capable of slowly draining the lake. I turned the wheel. It took effort, decades of rust fighting against me, but slowly it gave way. The gate cracked open and water began to flow through the spillway. With increasing force, I locked the wheel at a position that would drain the lake, slowly but steadily, giving wildlife time to adapt, but fast enough to make my point. By noon, the water level had dropped 3 feet. The resort's foam lines must have been burning up because cars started arriving at the dam access road, which was on my property. I'd anticipated this to posted signs warned against trespassing, and Deputy Rodriguez was there not because I called him, but because the sheriff had wisely anticipated trouble. Karen Whitfield arrived in her white Mercedes, followed by what looked like half the HOA board. She emerged from her car in designer heels that were completely inappropriate for the gravel road, her face flushed with rage. "Stop this immediately," she shrieked, trying to push past Deputy Rodriguez. "This is environmental terrorism. It's destruction of property. It's completely legal," Rodriguez said, calmly, holding up a hand to stop her. "Mr. Chen owns the dam. He's performing maintenance. I've seen all the paperwork." "Maintenance?" She gestured wildly at the rushing water. "He's draining our lake." "His lake," I corrected for my position by the control. "We'll check the water."